Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's start our Wednesday class with the prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhurbhuva Swaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimai, Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Asto ma satgamya, tamso ma jyotirgamya, mrityurma amritam gamya. Om sehna bhavatu, sehna bhunaktu, saviryam karvavai, tejasvi navaditamastu, ma vidvishavahi. Om shanti shanti shanti. For the last few weeks, I've been sending you some handouts where some verses are in Sanskrit given for our sadhana. Okay? And there are 15 steps to it. And from last week's handout, I think a couple of verses we did not cover. So let's look at that. The last two verses. Drishtim Gyanmayim Kritvaha Pashyet Brahmayam Jagat Sadrishtihi Parmodara Na Nasagrah Avalokani. Drishtim, the vision. Gyanmayim, full of knowledge. Kritva, making. Pashyet, should see. Brahmayam, as Brahm, as pure consciousness. Jagat, the world. Sa means that, drishti means vision. Parmodara, noble, param udahar. Na means not, nasagra avalokini, seeing the tip of the nose. Raising the ordinary gross vision into the subtle vision of knowledge. One should learn to see the world as pure consciousness, Brahman. That is the noblest of vision. Not that which is turned towards the tip of one's own nose. Okay? Because there are certain practices which we do, elementary practices, where we concentrate on the tip of the nose. That is to teach our mind to concentrate on one point. But the ultimate goal of that practice is this: trying to see Brahm everywhere, God everywhere. Because earlier we saw in these steps that steadiness of gaze, very important. So in this verse, the deeper significance of that sadhana is being given. So sure, we got to start from somewhere. We got to start from a steady gaze. If the steady gaze is not there, then we cannot move ahead. So this steady gaze will help us to quieten our mind a bit. Otherwise, mind keeps on wandering wherever the gaze is. So with that quiet mind, we got to learn how to contemplate upon the self. Our mind must get merged into that state, and the entire world of the object should roll away from the meditator's awareness. Otherwise, this objective world keep on disturbing us. So when the mind reaches the higher state of consciousness, what happens to mind? Mind ends. And it becomes one with Brahma. And this is what this Rishi is saying, that is the noblest vision. Sadrishti param udara. That drishti which can see God and only God. So merely gazing at the tip of our nose will not take us anywhere. But we got to remember, by practicing that, we got to reach to this level. So now continuation of this in the next verse. Drishtri darshan drishyanam viramah yatra va bhavet drishti tatra eva kritvya na nasagra avalokini. Drishtri darshan drishyanam, of the seer, seeing, and the seen. Okay, that is drishtri, darshan, drishya. Viramaha, cessation. Yatra means where, va means or, bhavet, happens, becomes. Drishti, vision, tatra eva, there alone. Kritvya, beautifully, like a kartavya. Tavya. Na means not, na sagra avalokini, seeing the tip of the nose. Or one should turn one's vision, and vision means attention actually. Okay? Dutifully to that alone. That means Brahma, the truth, the absolute. Where the separateness of the seer, seen, seeing ceases. Okay? So seer is who's seeing, and the power of seeing and the seen, all three, experience of that ceases. Not the tip of one's own nose. You don't even look at the tip of the nose anymore. You start from there, but ultimately it merges. So by giving another verse, this Rishi must have thought that I have not talked enough. So he's making further emphasis on this point. Drik drishti, that's what it's called. Steady gaze. At this moment, our entire mental attention, under the enormous pressures of our past vasanas, gets dissipated everywhere. We want to see this, see that, do this, do that. The outer world of the objects. So he is teaching us to do the sadhana where we gather all our energies pointed towards that alone. Gather from the outer and turn the entire intention to the self is true sadhana. Not just a little bit, not just a part of the attention, but the complete attention towards the self. So gaze here must be understood as a sadhana, attention. Our gaze turns to where our attention is called actually. So here he says, just put your attention only towards the Supreme. This gaze must be made spiritual by turning our attention to the spring of life in us. The depth of consciousness in us. In the one without a second, there can be no subject-object distinction. Just like when we are awakened, the dreamer dreamt and the dreaming all merge into one. So this is what he's talking over here when he says, Drishtri, Darshan, Drishya. That's only one, not two. Now in the next verse, and this is the handout I sent you yesterday, pranayama. Because we do pranayama in our Hatha Yoga practices also, but then there's a pranayama during our meditation also. So this pranayama sadhana is for the meditation. Chit adi sarva bhaveshu brahmtaven eva bhavanat nirodha sarva vritti nam pranayamaha sa uchyate. Chit adi sarva bhaveshu. In all mental states, such as chit or the memory. Because where is the memory? In the chit. Brahmtaven as the truth. Ev means verily, bhavanat, through realizing or understanding. Nirodha, restraint or quietening. Sarvavritti nam, of all modifications of the mind. Pranayamaha, control of the vital energies, pranayama. So pran, not the vayu, pran. So means that uchyate is called. To quieten all thought disturbances, the chitta, by realizing them as nothing but ripples in the supreme consciousness. That's what the vrittis are. And thus, that they are all Brahma is a true pranayama. So in Hatha Yoga practice, pranayama helps us to keep our body healthy. But for this deeper sadhana, sadhana of the mind, this pranayama keeps our mind steady. Pranayama. So that's why Rishi Patanjali mentioned different kinds of pranayama, which we have been learning the last few weeks. So learning how to control our mind with the help of pranayama. We all know pran is a technical term used in our scriptures. And it indicates all expressions of the self in the physical body. Pran. That's why rishis, they even divided this pran in our body according to the function. Pran, apan, saman, udan, yan. To control pran, therefore, is not only regulating the inhalation and exhalation, but controlling and ending all wild manifestations of life's dynamism at the outer physical level. Learning how to control all this. To realize that all thoughts are only Brahma in essence is to see him everywhere. We all know that thoughts cannot be without object. And the objects of the world will not become at once thoughts in a mind. When I become conscious of the object, only then arises the thought. Otherwise, there are several objects, they don't become our thoughts. When we become conscious of the object, then it becomes our thought. So our attention at this moment is upon the fascinating object. Just remain only at the thought level. To give up objects and to realize all these are consciousness alone is a supreme state. That's why we do this sadhana. When this is recognized, when this is lived vividly, what happens to mind? Mind dissolves. And all external expressions of life in the gross body become automatically controlled. This is pranayama. Because he is not talking about merely regulating of the breath. We'll see that in the next verse, this using the nose only is called Gran Vedanam. So we don't do pranayam just for the nose or to just pinch the nose, to hurt the nose. There's a deeper meaning after pranayam. That's where he's taking us. And next two verses are also about to clarify this aspect of pranayama when it comes to sadhana to this level. So next verse is Nishedhanam Parpanchasya Rechakhyah Samirnah Brahma Ev Asmi Itiya Vriti Purkaha Vayu Iritaha Tataha Tat Vriti Neshwaram Kumbhakaha Prana Sanyamaha Ayam Apicha Prabhuddha Nam Agya Nam Gran Vedanam. So the first verse, Nishedhanam, that means negation. Prapanchasya, of the phenomenal world. Rechakakya, known as Rechak. Rechak is when we exhale. Rechak, that is a technical word. Samirana, breath. Brahm, the truth. Ev means alone. Asmi, am. Iti, that. Ya means which. Vriti, the thought modification. Purkaha, the inhalation. So Rechak is exhalation, Purak is inhalation. Vayu means breath, Irita is called. Then the next verse, Tataha, thereafter, Tat Vritihi Neshalyam, the steadiness of that thought. Kumbhaka, Kumbhak is holding the breath, retention. Prana Sanyamaha, the control of the vital forces. Ayam means this, Apicha also. For Buddhanam, of the enlightened. Agyanam, of the ignorant. Prana Pidanam, torturing the nose. Okay. The negation of the world of polarity is to be considered as the Rechak. So Rechak is when we exhale. So he says a yogi of this caliber, when he does Rechak, he tries to detach from this world. Just look at the depth of the thought. The negation of the world of polarity is to be considered as Rechak, breathing out. Continuous thought of I am Brahma is called Purak. So when you inhale with the thought that this is all Brahma. And the steadiness in that thought thereafter is called Kumbhaka. So when you hold that breath in, hold that deep thought. This is a true pranayama to the wise. To the wise. Pragyana or prabhuddhana. These are the terms he uses. And we all do sadhana to become wise. This is true pranayam to the wise, while the ignorant merely tortures his nose. Okay, so if you are just, even these great teachings, if our attention is only at the bodily level, he is calling us ignorant. He is not saying don't take care of the body. While taking care of the body, learn how to detach from this body. Because you are not the body. You are a lot more than that. You're part of prana. In fact, you are prana. So in pranayama exercises in the language of the yogic scriptures, language which is used, he's using it over here. Taking the breath in is purak, holding the breath in is kumbhak, letting go of that breath is called rechak. So we are all familiar with this. We do pranayama every day. But if we are doing it only at the physical level, he's saying it's only a breath control. So this Rishi is taking us to a deeper level into what is really important. He's taking us to that subtler level. So maybe next morning when you do the pranayama, keep this in mind. Because when you are inhaling, exhaling, holding, the body is getting the benefit. It's not that body is not getting the benefit, but you want to go into the subtler level of the awareness too. Hold the mind in that poise, in that peacefulness during kumbhaka. Hold it. This is the pranayama of the wise. Otherwise, we are just torturing our nose according to it. Very strong word we used over here. Not just the prana sometimes I see that people just get carried away how the fingers are kept inside, outside, up on the forehead or what. We are doing all this for a deeper level of sadhana. Deeper level. Let's look at the next verse. And this is about pratyahar. Because he talked about yam, niyam, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, and then he added some ratak in there and a lot of other sadhanas in there. Vishyeshu atam tam drishtvaha manasahachiti majnam pratyaharaha sa vigyeyaha abhyasaniyaha mumukshubhi. Vishyeshu, in all objects, Atmanam, expression of one's self. Atmanam. Drishtvaha, seeing or realizing. Manasaha, of the mind. Chiti, in the consciousness. Majnam, absorption. Pratyahara. That is a pratyahara, you are familiar with that term from Ashtanga Yoga. Sa means that, vigyeyaha is to be known. Abhyasaniyaha should be practiced. Abhyasa. Mumukshubhi by those desiring liberation. Anybody who has decided that that is my goal now. Even though always it is the goal for everybody, but we have to make the decision. Liberation, freedom. To dissolve the mind in the consciousness Knowing the expression of oneself in all the objects is known as pratyahara. This should be practiced by all the seekers diligently. Okay, we got to absorb our mind. And where does mind go normally? It goes out through these senses. These are like outlets. So controlling those, controlling the senses, and then controlling the mind and absorbing the mind into the Brahman, that is pratyahara. So pratyahara means self-withdrawal, meaning to withdraw the mind that is now occupied in the external world of objects. So we got to apply this mind for the higher purpose. We don't have to negate the mind. Okay, we don't have to suppress the mind, but we got to tell this mind the purpose is higher, not the lower. Killing the mind by subduing it or completely exhausting it is not pratyahara. Pratyahara consists in recognizing, sure, God is everywhere, but I got to bring my attention towards God alone, not the objective world. Because we know that the sense objects are nothing but the projections of our own consciousness. Through our mind, through our intellect, we are drawn towards them. But if we understand that this objective world is temporary, the reality is Brahma, reality is that supreme, then we are absorbing our mind into that absolute reality. That is pratyahara. Let the mind go out when it's needed to go out. When there's a purpose to go out, let it go out, then withdraw it again. Don't let the mind go into the objective world aimlessly. That's what he's telling us. Because we know that only in the medium of divinity can the mind have any cognition or even experience of these objects. But we are only aware of the objects, not the divinity. Mind appreciates existence everywhere. That existence, objective existence, it enjoys. But we should not forget the real existence. We should be aware of it. And whenever there's no need for the mind to go out, bring it in. Bring it in. The mumukshu is the one who has got the burning aspiration for liberation. Mumukshu. Hungry for that. See, just like most of us are mumukshu, we want to just enjoy these worldly things. Mumukshu is opposite of that. Mumukshu is wise. Such a mumukshu is expected to practice all these steps. Mumukshu knows that I need to do sadhana, just like in this, to be successful in this outer world, we had to do sadhana. No matter in which area we are working, we had to go through certain training, get some degrees, some experience. So mumukshu knows my real goal is liberation. And mumukshu likes to go through these step by step sadhana at a deeper level. Now, next one you are familiar with, dharana. Dharana. So, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana. Yatra yatra manaha yati brahmanaha tatra darshanat manasaha dharanam cha eva dharanaha saparaha mata. Yatra yatra, wherever mana, the mind, yati, goes, brahmanaha, of the truth. Tatra means there, darshanat, from the vision, manasaha, of the mind, dharanam, holding steady. Cha means and, ev means alone, dharana, concentration, sa means that, para means supreme, mata means is known. Having the vision of Brahma. On whatever object the mind may fall, to steady the mind there is known as dharana. And this is the highest concentration. Because literal translation of dharana in English, we say concentration. But concentration we can do it anywhere. In the objective world also, we do the concentration. Watch a child these days, looking at the screen, full concentration. Sometimes they don't even hear us. But look at that vision of a Brahma. That means the object has to be divine. Only then it becomes a dharana. Concentration on the worldly object is not a dharana in this sense. Okay, so let me read it again. Having the vision of Brahma on whatever object the mind may fall. You can choose the object, because if you are sitting down and doing the dharana, choose any object, whatever you think it's divine. It could be a flame of a candle. It could be the statue of God or your Guru, or a symbol, anything. But make sure that you see the vision of Brahma there. You just don't start looking at it. What is that made up of? That statue, is it marble or is it some gemstone? No, you go beyond that. You don't look at it whether it's big or small, or whether it is favorite of everybody else or not, or is it popular or not. No, you just see the vision of Brahman. On whatever object the mind may fall, to steady the mind, there is known as dharana. And this is the highest concentration. So dharana is concentration. And how are we to develop a concentration? You got to keep something in front of you first. If you're in the initial stages of this practice, you need something in front of you. That's why sitting down, spending some time, concentrating on that object, thinking that there's a divinity in it. That is important. So it is useful, but it is only external aid to help our mind to gain concentration. So concentration is not tying down the mind to a certain point, but allowing the mind to move everywhere ultimately and anywhere and see God. Because with this initial stages of concentration should take us to that level. So wherever we see, all we see is Brahma. appreciate the names and the forms right now. But alongside this, we should also feel the presence of Brahma. If you're not feeling the presence of Brahma, it doesn't become dharana. Presence of Brahma. So concentration is not the one that people generally do by artificially looking at a picture of a deity. Okay, it doesn't happen automatically. Because we have several pictures of deities in our homes, in our temples. But do we really see Brahma in them? Or are we just only talking about how it's made, how big it is, how beautiful it is? Once we start seeing the Brahma in those forms, we have reached the stage of concentration. So this is a technique where the feeling is involved, where our own mind constantly and continuously in the atmosphere of perennial divinity, looking at that, being absorbed in that, then it becomes dharma. Remember that. Then how does it become dhyan? Because from dharana, it goes to the level of dhyan, meditation. We cannot meditate unless we have experienced the dharana. Remember that. Getting connected with that divinity for a certain period of time, like a shorter span of time, is dharana. But when we can make it a little longer period, we are looking at the divinity and we continuously feeling that divinity in that object, only then it becomes dhyan. Technically, 12 seconds of feeling that divinity, 12 seconds. That is only one unit of dharana. 12 units of dharana becomes 1 unit of dhyan. So that means 2.5 minutes. And then 12 units of dhyan becomes 1 unit of samadhi. That's half an hour. The Yoga Shastras, they give us this formula so that we can see, are we progressing or are we just imagining? Okay. So let's look at the dhyan also, and we'll talk about it next week. But let me go through this verse. Brahma ev asmihi iti sadritvatyah niralambyatyah sthiti dhyan shabden vikhyatah parma anandadayane. Brahm means truth, ev means alone, asmi means am. Iti sad vrityah, by such constant thought. So thought which is not fluctuating and thought which is full of divinity. So iti sadvrityah niralambita, depending on nothing. Sthiti means remaining. Dhyan shabden, by the term dhyan. Vikhyata, well known. Parma anandadayani, bestower of supreme bliss. So Rishi says, by constant knowledge that I am Brahma. Not to rest on anything for any support is known by the term dhyan. And this is the best tower of supreme bliss. So that's why I often tell you that anybody who has been meditating for a certain amount of time is not sad. Feels blissful all the time. And where is that bliss coming from? From the owner of bliss, which is God. Because the connection has happened. Just like if we are drinking water, we are not thirsty anymore. When we eat food, we are not hungry anymore. When we are connected with that Parama Anand, we feel supremely blissful. Where can be sadness in there? Where can be any kind of a churning of the mind or disturbance of the mind? Or the people, when they call it depression, feeling sad. Where can that be when you're connected with the Paramanand? And that is the outcome of the Dhyan. So we'll talk more about this next week, about Dhyan. But I want you to pay attention to these verses. So in a beautiful way, he's taking us towards our own experience. Not just the experience of others, but our experience. That's why the title of all these lectures is Aparoksh Anubhuti. But again, sadhana we have to do. Very systematically, he is telling us the steps. It might take a whole lifetime on step number 1. That's okay. God says next time around, when you're in a human body, you will start from there, whatever you have done. That's why we see that some people, they'll never be angry. Some people, they can never be harsh. Some people, they'll never tell a lie because they have walked on these steps. Some people can do the concentration dharana very quickly. And some people fall into the samadhi as soon as they meet their guru. Because they have walked on these steps. We have to walk also. Because goal is the same for all of us. Goal is the same whether we recognize or not. Just like a goal of every drop of water on this earth is ocean. Whether it falls into the river or the lake or the ponds, ultimately it reaches the ocean. The same thing happens to us all Atmas. We got to become one with the Paramatma. So these rishis, we are very thankful to that who have given us all these steps so clearly and so beautifully so that we can stay on this path. Consistently, constantly, lovingly also. Okay, let's stop it here today's class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.